Bonjour à tous. Il est 11h30.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's 11:30 in Libreville, 12:30 in Geneva. I suggest that we get down to work. Could I ask the Secretariat to let me know whether we have a quorum before we begin? You have the floor. It seems that we are quorate. We are therefore going to resume where we stopped yesterday at agenda item 8, the tree species program decision 1815. Plants Committee members have taken the floor on this. I would like to give the floor to observer parties and then observers. I have taken note of those observers which took the floor yesterday, so I would like to hear now from observer parties who did not have the opportunity to take the floor yesterday. So the floor is open, first of all, for observer parties. We are now dealing with items from yesterday's meeting. I would ask you, therefore, to please be as brief as possible when you take the floor so that we can complete today's program. Argentina, you have the floor. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like, first of all, Madam, to congratulate you on your excellent chairing of this committee. Now, on this question, tree species, decision 18.5, in PC 25.8 addendum, there is an additional recommendation. The committee is to formulate recommendations as appropriate to the Secretariat and the Standing Committee. We would like to recommend the continuation and strengthening of this program. This is a program that provides great support with respect to capacity building, studies, and management with respect to a number of tree species that are sold internationally. Thank you, Madam. I would like to thank Argentina for that statement. Peru, you have the floor. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam. Peru would like to thank the Secretariat for having prepared this document and its addendum. We would also like to extend thanks to the Secretariat for all of the work done in connection with the tree species program. We certainly would agree that we have concluded 1814. On 1815, it would be good for us to make recommendations with respect to the long-term status of this program. We would take the liberty of suggesting that this could be a broader program involving more countries and more species, particularly those that have recently been listed in Appendix 2, such as cedrillas. I would agree with the representative of Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, and others, that it would be useful to have a working group to consider this issue. Thank you, Madam. I would like to thank you. I have noted that there is support for the maintenance of this program, the CTSP. I would like to ask parties that would not be in favor of maintaining the program to take the floor. In other words, if you agree with Argentina and Peru with respect to maintaining the program, I would invite you not to request the floor. I would now like to hear from others, or from parties with other views on this matter. Thank you. Indonesia, Guatemala, Chile. Could I ask whether your views are different from those expressed by Argentina and Peru? If you do not have a different view, I would ask you to withdraw your request for the floor, which would allow me to then give the floor to observers. I would like to thank the observer parties. Three NGOs have requested the floor. Could I ask Chile if you wish to take the floor on this issue? Do you have a different view? Thank you, Chile, for your understanding. It's a question of time management. I would now like to give the floor to the ITTO and then SSN. ITTO, you have the floor.
That ITTO has recently signed a contract with the CITES Secretariat to assist with the implementation of the CITES Tree Species Program. This continues a long-standing collaboration that we've had with CITES for over 15 years in implementing the provisions of the Convention for Tropical Tree Species, particularly. That contract that has just been signed is one of a number that we've helped with during the implementation of the CITES Tree Species Program. And specifically, this one will provide for us to carry out a study on agarwood producing species, including cultivation and inoculation technologies and best management practices. And I realized that the working group was established yesterday for agarwood, and certainly we would be keen to feed in the results of this work on agarwood that we carry out under this contract with CITES into that working group. Secondly, we'll organize a workshop to review this agarwood study. Thirdly, we will co-organize an international training workshop on identification of tree species products. Again, I note that there is another working group on identification of tree species products, and we're happy to contribute to that. Fourthly, we will be implementing a project in Ecuador on implementing non-detriment findings for Suetenia macrophylla, or mahogany, from that country. That will be carried out using ITTO funding under part of the deal between ITTO and CITES, where some money comes from CITES and ITTO puts some of its money in from other donors. Finally, we will assist in the meetings of the CITES Tree Species Program Advisory Committee. The next one of those will come up soon. And we will inform the International Tropical Timber Council, which I believe all of its members are also parties to the CITES Convention, about progress in implementing the CITES Tree Species Program. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, ITTO, for that statement and for the support that you give at CITES, in particular with respect to this program. I would now like to give the floor to SSN. You have the floor.
The entire intervention, I'm going to just do it short. Our organizations urge the Plants Committee to recommend to the Standing Committee that the CITES Tree Species Program and related decisions be extended post COP19. We can see from Table A and Annex 2 of this document that parties recognize the benefits of these programs and the huge support for this continuation. This is a program that, as we can see from Annex 3, has made real progress and delivered very positive results. Madam Chair, timber is the most widely traded wildlife commodity in both volume and value, ensuring that tree species are sustainably managed is of paramount importance, both for the species that inhabit the forest and for the local communities who rely on the benefits that forests bring. The CITES tree program is fundamental to ensuring the CITES listing of tree species are implemented and that the forests and those that rely on them are maintained. We urge the Plants Committee to continue its strong support of this essential initiative. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I do apologize. As the chair, I forgot to unmute. I'd like to thank SSN for that statement. I would now like to turn to the Secretariat. Do you have any comments, Secretariat? You have the floor.
Well, the CITES Secretariat highly appreciates the very positive feedback and the broad support for the CITES tree species program that we heard from PC members and from the observers organizations, including our colleagues from ITTO. And this is all very encouraging to all of us. According to Decision 1815, the Plants Committee is to consider Secretariat reports on the implementation of the CITES tree species program. As the Secretariat explains in its document, its report, the implementation of the 17 CTSP projects was considerably delayed because of COVID measures. Project implementers asked for more time, and in response, the Secretariat requested and obtained an extension for the entire CTSP program from the main donor, the European Union, until the end of 2020. All projects are now in progress, and their outputs are expected to become available later in the implementation period of the program. It may be important for the Plants Committee to recommend that the Secretariat brings to the attention of the Plants Committee the relevance of the technical and scientific results of the CTSP program for its review. Once that we start receiving again formal reports from all the beneficiaries as the epidemic impact eases and project activities will start to pick up again. As to the modus operandi and the next phases of the CTSP program, we are mindful that this is a standing committee that is directed in Decision 1816 to consider the long-term future of the program. In doing so, it has to take into account the other CITES capacity building activities and programs that exist. All these programs are subject to reporting to and decision-making by SE74. The Plants Committee may want to recommend to the Standing Committee that it is overall positive and supportive about the progress made by the CTSP program so far. And it can request that the Standing Committee takes this into account and into consideration in its discussions on the implementation of Decision 1816 on the long-term future of the program. The Secretariat can also reflect the Plants Committee's positive feedback on the program in its reporting to SE74. It therefore seems to the Secretariat that there may be no need for an in-session working group, as we heard some suggested yesterday on this matter at this time, Madam Chair. Thank you.
I would like to thank the Secretariat for those comments and suggestion. I see a point of order from Chile. Chile, I will give you the floor, but let me just clarify one thing. Chile did appear as having requested the floor, but the light went on and off, and that is why I did not give Chile the floor. I thought that request to take the floor had been withdrawn. Chile, if you wish to take the floor, I will of course allow you to do so. You have the floor. It seems that there might be a technical issue. Chile, do you wish to take the floor? Chile, could I ask you to confirm that you wish to take the floor? This may be a technical issue. Maybe we can move on. It seems to be the case. I would like to thank the Secretariat for their observations and suggestions. We have certainly followed your suggestion that the Secretariat report back on the CSTP successes so it can consider them. The Plants Committee will also recommend, with respect to 1816, take into account that the Plants Committee supports the CTSP and the progress made to date in that program. It seems to me, from what I have heard today, that these suggestions could be taken on board by the Plants Committee. As for the need for a working group, a suggestion that was made yesterday, and indeed today implicitly, it was my hope that agenda item 8 could be dealt with in plenary. I say this because we already have a high number of sessional working groups. With your agreement and understanding, members and observer parties as well as observers, could I ask you to go along with my suggestion, which is that we take on board what the Secretariat has had to propose? The floor is open. Plants Committee members, any comments? The representative for Europe, Daniel Ruff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do share your view on not having the need of a working group, of an in-session working group. However, there is one suggestion we have to make with regard to recommendations under agenda item 12, because the European region believes that the tree species program supporting the implementation of the Convention for Tree Species is of extremely high value. However, we also believe that there are strong links to the potential resolution on CITES and forests. We understand that there is already a financial mechanism connected to the envisaged resolution foreseen, as laid out in the addendum on PC 25.12 about a COP-to-COP forest portfolio. Not understanding all underlying ideas, we nevertheless believe that finding a home for the CITES tree species program and a possible resolution on CITES and forests could help pertaining this important program and making its existence less depending on bi- or multilateral funding agreements only. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I would like to thank Daniel Wolf, the alternate representative for Europe. I have certainly taken note of your recommendation. I would now like to give the floor to Rosemary Nam, the representative for North America, after which I will give the floor to the representative for Central and South America and the Caribbean. North America, you have the floor.
The North American region supports the suggestion made by the chair to not convene a working group on this matter. We appreciate the work done, but we don't see a need to send this to a working group here at PC 25. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, representative of North America. Cesar, you have the floor. Thank you, madam. It is too bad that we don't have any specific decision before us on this matter. But it is my understanding that we are in a position to make recommendations to the standing committee so that the standing committee is aware of what has been supported by party members as well as observer parties and observers. There seems to be consensus on the need for this to be a standing program that is of great assistance to CITES, so we think that recommendation should be made. Thank you. Thank you, Cesar. Now, you'll note that we have made note of the recommendations made, and we are well aware of support for the maintenance of the program. To date, we don't have enough technical and scientific data available to be able to fully assess the program. If the program is to be maintained, we can take up the Secretariat's suggestion in support of the maintenance by actually putting the proposal to SC74 for their decision. I hope that you understand that that is the situation. The representative for Africa had requested the floor, but that request seems to have been withdrawn. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a position to take my suggestion on board and follow the Secretariat's suggestions. Africa, the African region representative, you have the floor. Please go ahead. Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. The African region does support your proposal that we have a working group to improve our scientific understanding of these species. Thank you very much to the representative for Africa. Madam Chair, asks the representative, did you hear me? Yes, indeed, I did. However, says the chair, let me clarify, I did not suggest that a working group be set up. That is not the case. I did clarify that we didn't have enough technical or scientific data to assess the program. That is why it was decided that it would be better to let the program run its course for a little bit longer and entrust the matter to SC74. I have noted that a number of participants have expressed interest in the maintenance of this program and to have its funding secured. We certainly hope to be in a position to do that. I will give the floor to the African region representative when I can, but let me first of all give the floor to the representative for Central and South America and the Caribbean. I would like to conclude our discussion on this agenda item so that we can move forward, but you have the floor, madam.
Fabiola ne pouvait.
Fabiola seems to be unable to connect to take the floor. Perhaps I could give the floor to Beatrice Cayota. I would like to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that we already have a number of working groups. So that's one point to bear in mind, and we also have to wrap up our consideration of this item. Let me take the liberty of reminding you that we don't really have that much time for the working groups we've already set up to do their work. Some working groups are essential if we are to have more detailed discussion on certain items. So please let me ask for your indulgence. I would really rather we not set up a working group on item 8, but I will give the floor to the representatives for Africa who wish to take the floor before I conclude our deliberations on this item. You have the floor, madam.
Madam Chair, we would like to request that the Secretariat maybe reads out the recommendations to the SC for record, because as it is now, it's not very clear what exactly is being recommended to the Standing Committee. So that would be my request. And I do understand that there has been results that have been submitted regularly, and it's not exactly correct to say that we do not have adequate results. So, Madam Chair, it would be useful if we would have clearly stated statements on what's being recommended to the Standing Committee. Thank you.
Merci, Madame la représentante de la.
I would like to thank the representative for Africa. Let me give the floor to the Secretariat. Could I ask the Secretariat to read the recommendations that you would have for SC 74? You have the floor.
Madam Chair, these are your recommendations and not the recommendation of the CITES Secretariat. But perhaps I can try to paraphrase them in English as good as I can. The Plants Committee recommends to the Standing Committee, in the Standing Committee's implementation of Decision 18.16, to take into consideration that the Plants Committee is supportive of the CITES tree species program, and that the program and the program made so far. So that was one recommendation. Another recommendation that you have made is that the Secretariat should bring to the attention of the Plants Committee future technical and scientific results of the CTSP program that are relevant for the Plants Committee for its review. These are the two elements that we have noted down, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Merci, Secretariat. Effectivement.
Thank you to the Secretariat. Yes, indeed, those are the recommendations that I read. But as I was not expecting so much debate today on the point, we've already had 30 minutes of our meeting. May I seek the indulgence of the committee so that we finish here, that the recommendations to the standing committee be done, and that we share the progress that has been made so far so that we can advance. I would have liked to have been brief on this item, but I still have two further requests for the floor. And I do not wish parties or members of the committee to feel frustrated that they have not been able to speak. I will give the floor for two further statements, Brazil and Guatemala.
Just to make sure that you're hearing me, because my camera isn't on. Oh, okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. We believe that the proposed recommendation is a good beginning. We're just like, if there is no working group, in-session working group to discuss this, would like it to be stated in this decision that the Plants Committee recognizes the value of the CITES tree species program, and that we would like it for it to be for the standing committee to consider or to evaluate the means of it becoming a permanent program in CITES. Thank you.
Phone for the chair, please. On behalf of our region, we would like, Guatemala, we would like to say that the CITES tree species program, as has been said by other parties, has been a tangible opportunity to meet the needs of many species in timber on the CITES list, and we would like to propose that which has already been said on the need that we felt to continue with the group and strengthen it. And we would be in favor of having a working group, an intersessional working group. As has been said by other parties, we would like to put it to your consideration that it would be useful to know if it's feasible, whether we can create a working group, given the importance that we have identified in the work that is being undertaken within this program. Thank you. The interpreter cannot hear the chair. The interpreter is unable to hear the chair. We are not receiving any sound from the chair.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Can you hear me now, says the chair. The interpreter confirms we can hear the chair. Thank you. Now I can be heard. Would it be possible So, I was saying that that I take note of your statements. I think that the value of the program has been recognized, and we recommend that the program be maintained in a longer-term manner in CITES. Could the Secretariat please take note of that? I think we should now continue with our agenda, and I will not be able to take any more interventions after that which we had from Guatemala. Secretariat, I think you had some housekeeping announcements to make.
La parole à Martin du Secrétariat, Martin Ziger du Secrétariat.
The Secretariat.
I was reading, I've lost internet connection. We all do it at times. Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to make some quick announcements. We know that we are late in the program, so I'll make it very short. Yesterday, you established a number of working groups, and some parties and observers expressed later were unable to express their interest to join in a timely manner. So I will just point out those that were expressed an interest to join, and we believe that we understand their participation is acceptable. For the working group that you established on towards a resolution on CITES and forests, we have as additional member Algeria. For the working group on inclusion of Pterocarpus erinaceus from all range states in the view of significant trade, we have the representative for Africa, Mr. Mahamane. We have Belgium, Benin, Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria, Togo, and forest trends. For the working group on specimens grown from wild collected seeds or spores that are deemed to be artificially propagated, we have the representative for Africa as additional member, Mr. Mahamane, and the representative for Asia, Ms. Tika. For the working group on agarwood, we have as additional members a representative from Asia, Tika Dewi, and Ifeat. And for the working, finally, on the working group on Boswellia trees, we have as extra member doTERRA, which is a non-governmental organization. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci au secrétariat.
I thank the Secretariat. These additional names will be added to the working groups. So now we are at item 30, which is on the trade in medicinal and aromatic plants. And I'd like to give the floor to the representative of Asia, Mr. Bongyun Lee, who will present the document.
Monsieur Byung Lee, vous avez la parole.
Mr. Byung Lee, you have the floor.
Le point 25.
Item 30 on the agenda should be presented by Mr. Byung Lee, the representative of Asia. Secretariat, I cannot see Mr. Lee. Is Mr. Lee present? So perhaps there is someone from the Secretariat. Mr. Byung Lee, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. So can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. This document has been prepared by the Secretariat. At the 18th COP meeting, parties adopted several decisions on trade in medicinal and aromatic plant species from 18.300 through 18.303. Our working group is responsible for first, reviewing the Secretariat's report on progress in the implementation of Decision 18.300 as contained in the current document PC25, document 30, and its annexes. Second, in line with Decision 18.302, taking into account information document COP 18 Inf 11. The current document has reviewed some issues on harmonization, standard code, management of online trade, scientific identification of trade names, sustainable and traceable supply, and value chains for MAP products, focusing on certification schemes, standards, and guidelines. The review also showed that local and traditional knowledge and participatory monitoring and management can be useful to many aspects of NDF makings. Recommendation to inter alia complement existing tools relating to the implementation of the Convention for CITES listed medicinal and aromatic plants and create synergies as appropriate with relevant intergovernmental organizations and stakeholders. Finally, we prepared a recommendation at the end of this document for consideration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci aux représentants.
I thank the representative of Asia for having chaired this intersessional group and for having presented the results and progress made. Before I continue, I see that the Secretariat would like to take the floor. I will give the floor to the Secretariat.
Sorry, Madam Chair, it was just to be able to say that we are having technical difficulties, and I was going to take over for Tom, but now I see that Tom has returned. Glad to see you, Tom. Thank you.
Merci, Madame la Secrétaire.
Thank you, Secretary General. So, may I continue? So I wanted to thank the representative of Asia for having headed the group and presenting the results. I would now like to give the floor to members of the committee, followed by parties, and then by observers for any comments. I have a request from Ms. Rosemary Nyam, representative for North America region. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The North American region appreciates the progress and is supportive of efforts to understand the relevant conservation impacts and improved implementation for CITES listed plant species that are commercially traded for their medicinal and aromatic uses. We note the progress of the working group and support the proposed inclusion of 2 subjects into the proposed second international workshop on NDFs as outlined in the revised recommendations found in PC 25 Document 30 Addendum. With regard to the draft decisions 19.AA to 19.DD, we suggest, in the essence of time, a small drafting group be convened to suggest revisions that may increase the clarity and focus of these decisions. We support the decisions, but we think they need a little further drafting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Pardon. Merci.
Thank you to the representative of the North America region. Are there any further requests from members of the Plants Committee for the floor? No, I see none. So now I open the floor to parties for any comments. We have Germany and followed by Canada. Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Germany wants to express thanks to the Secretariat and the Intersessional Working Group for the great progress on this important topic, and we appreciate the Secretariat's huge efforts during the last years on which the current Plants Committee document and its addendum base on. We largely agree with the conclusions made in document PC 2530 and the synthesis of the working group provided in the addendum. We also support the draft decisions given in the addendum and would particularly endorse the importance of point 2 in the revised recommendations, saying that the proposed second international workshop on NDFs should cover the 2 mentioned issues identified as very relevant for medicinal and aromatic plants in a CITES context. First, the interaction of CITES procedures with local and traditional knowledge in monitoring and management of CITES-listed medicinal and aromatic plants, and second, possible interplays of voluntary certification schemes and NDF making. We consider these 2 topics as particularly relevant for production of and trade in medicinal and aromatic plants, and think that covering these in the proposed NDF workshop or any potential comparable body will provide the necessary stage for discussion and may result in the needed practical guidance on implementation for CITES authorities and other stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you, Germany. I now give the floor to Canada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Canada commends the Secretariat for its progress in implementation of Decision 18.300. Canada agrees that a comprehensive knowledge of CITES listed medicinal plants is desirable, as it would be for any other CITES listed species. We do also support the discussion of this topic, as was recommended by Germany in the NDF workshop. However, we are concerned that finished medicinal products are largely excluded by annotation from CITES regulation, and this is done for a good reason. We believe that medicinal product value chains, certification schemes, standards, and guidelines depart from the central focus of CITES, which is the species in trade. Medicinal and aromatic plant trade monitoring and reporting can certainly be improved through better knowledge of the commodities controlled by CITES that are used in medicinal plant products, not the products themselves. Such information is readily available. If readily available, would provide useful guidance for traders and to CITES authorities. However, there are dedicated expert organizations, such as Q Medicinal Plant Name Services, which are best positioned to lead on compiling and monitoring trade names associated with medicinal and aromatic plant species. In conclusion, Madam Chair, Canada supports consideration of trade in medicinal and aromatic plant species and their consideration for a case study in the NDF workshop, so long as the attention remains within the scope of the convention, and so long as the focus remains on the core CITES function, which is targeting the first and the main commodities in trade. Thank you, Chair.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you to Canada. Are there any further requests from parties to express their comments? The floor is open. Very well. I now open the floor for observers. HSI, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame le Président, et mes félicitations aussi.
Thank you, and my congratulations, Madam Chair, but with my apologies, I'm going to continue in Shakespeare's language.
The following intervention is being made on behalf of Humane Society International, Animal Welfare Institute, CIEL, Environmental Investigation Agency, and Species Survival Network. For a non-detriment finding to be reliable, it must be based not only on accurate, up-to-date biological data, but on data that can be verified by a scientific authority. Data from certification systems do not meet this test. The underlying data behind a certification, because they come from third-party analysis, require transparency of access and re-examination, and based on the certification date may not reflect current realities. For these reasons, we support the view of Canada as stated in the addendum to this document, that although they may be useful in some circumstances, they should not be employed in making decisions fundamental to CITES. The committee may recall that at COP15, the parties rejected a proposal to create its own certification scheme linked to the CITES permitting system, in part because of the inability of such a scheme to monitor ongoing changes that could be relevant to the circumstances informing a specific NDF. We agree with Canada that any guidance developed outside of CITES, including that for a certification scheme, could be posted to the NDF portal. However, We urge the committee to reject the recommendation in paragraph 9.2b of the addendum that the subject of certification schemes and NDFs be included in the proposed second international workshop on NDFs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, HSI.
Thank you, HSI. And thank you for your congratulations as well. I see no further request for the floor. So, having heard the various points of view, I think there were potentially two scenarios, either that we have a plenary decision or the establishment of a working group. I think that we will set up a working group with the following mandate. So I'm going to read the mandate.
Okay. I would like to propose the establishment of an in-session working group shared with the following mandate. A. Consider the draft decision in the annex to the addendum, taking into account progress reported in document 25 doc 30 and its addendum and COP 18 inf 11. And B. Make any additional recommendation for the plant committees to consider. Ainsi,
so, I think that the concerns that have been raised, in particular those raised by Canada, can be taken into account. So I would now like to invite members of the Plants Committee to let me know who could chair this working group. Plants Committee members, the floor is open. The North America region representative, Rosemary Gnam, has requested the floor. The floor is yours.
I seek a clarification. I seek a clarification. Were you requesting who would participate in the working group, or are you looking for a chair of the working group? Thank you.
Merci, Madame la.
Thank you to the representative of North America. Yes, at this point, I am looking for a member of the Plants Committee to chair this working group. Perhaps you might like to do so, Madam?
Vous avez la parole.
And some other word by others, if given the present plans, but I will take this one on. Thank you.
Interpreters, would it be possible to repeat?
Alors, je vous remercie.
Thank you most warmly for having accepted to chair this working group. Now we will look at the membership of this working group. Are there any other members of the Plants Committee who would like to participate in the working group? If that is the case, please indicate your interest by requesting the floor. So for now, I'm just asking for people from members of the Plants Committee, I'm asking Plants Committee members to please raise their hands if they or request the floor. So for now, I have the chair of the working group, Ms. Rosemary Nam, and I have the representative of the Africa region. So Ms. Rosemary Nam will chair, Mr. Ali Mahaman for the Africa region, and Ms. Beatrice Cayota from the Africa region. Thank you for having expressed your interest in participating in this group. The list has been cleared. Now I will invite parties to express their interest in participating in this working group.
Okay. La liste s'allonge. Donc,
the list is getting longer now. Let me begin with Daniel Wolf for the alternate for Europe. Then 4 parties. We have the Republic of Korea, the United States, Malaysia, the United Kingdom, China, Singapore, Georgia, Canada, Cambodia, Germany, Kenya, and I think that's it. If I'm not mistaken, that adds up to 15 committee members and observer members. Is that correct? Secretariat, am I right? Indeed. Thank you for having confirmed that I can count. Okay, I would now like to ask observers to request the floor if they wish to participate in the working group. We can take a maximum of 15. Please request the floor if you would like to join.
Alors, sur la liste,
IUCN, SSN, HSI, Traffic, IFEAT, AHPA, World Wildlife Fund for Nature. That is the list of observers. We can now clear the request for the floor. I will now give you the full list of working group members. We have the representative of the North America region who will chair the working group. Then the 2 representatives for Africa, the alternate representative for Europe, then as parties, the Republic of Korea, the United States, Malaysia, the UK, China, Singapore, Georgia, Canada, Cambodia, Germany, Kenya. and as observers IUCN, SSN, HSI, Traffic, IFEAD, AHPA, and WWF. Thank you very much for having agreed to join the working group, and that means that we can now close our discussion of agenda item 30. I would now like to move on to the next item, cooperation with the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation, Resolution Conf 16.5 and Decision 1850. This document and its addendum will be introduced by the Secretariat along with the regional representative for Oceania. It is a document that gives you a summary of progress made with respect to Decision 1850, cooperation with the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation. The document and its addendum give an update on work linked to cooperation with the GSPC, particularly with respect to the future of this initiative within the Global Strategy for Biodiversity post-2020 and the CBD. The Plants Committee will be invited to adopt the revised recommendations that appear on page 7 of appear in paragraph 7 of the report on the cooperation with GSPC and decision until we have CBD decisions on the future of that strategy that are clear, and then we can replace 1849 to 1851 with respect to our work on this matter beyond COP19. I would now like to give the floor to the representative for Oceania who has worked on this document. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also like to thank the Secretariat for its support and to the PC members, parties and non-party stakeholders for their contribution to the intersessional working group, considering decisions 18.49 to 18.5 of PC 25 Doc 13 and its addendum. As outlined in the addendum, a decision on the future of the global strategy for plant conservation within the post-2020 global biodiversity framework remains pending, following the postponement of the 15th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, which is currently scheduled for October 2021. As such, the Plants Committee is therefore invited to consider the revised recommendations contained in paragraph 7 of the addendum to PC 25 Doc 13 on the postponement of further considerations on the GSPC, and to agree on a draft decision to replace the decisions 18.49 to 18.51 with the purpose of presenting its recommendations to COP20. The GSPC provides important support and guidance for international cooperation on plant conservation efforts and is something that the CITES should continue to cooperate with. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you to the representative for Oceania. Could I ask if anyone else would like to take the floor? First of all, I will turn to Plant Committee members. I see a request from North America. Rosemary Nyam, you have the floor.
Chair. The North American region wishes to thank the Secretariat and the regional representative of Oceania for their work on this topic. We would like to take note of document PC 25 Comp and its addendum. We also agree with the postponement of any further considerations of the global strategy for plant conservation and resolution Comp 16.5 until the CBD has finalized its deliberations and there are clear decisions regarding the future of the GSPC. Finally, we also agree with proposing to the Conference of the Parties deletion of decisions 18.49 to 18.51 on the cooperation with the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation to be replaced by the draft decision proposed in document PC 25, document 13, addendum. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I would like to thank you for that statement, Madam. Could I ask if any other Plants Committee members would like to take the floor? If not, I would like to invite observer parties to take the floor. The floor is open to observer parties. Mexico, you have the floor.
Briefly take the floor as CBD Secretariat to draw the attention to documents cited in paragraph 4 of document PC 25 Doc 13 addendum, as the representative of Oceania mentioned, in particular to paragraph 4B on the development of a post-2020 global strategy for plant conservation as a component of the global biodiversity framework, where there is a preliminary draft global strategy for plant conservation and 2030 targets. Specifically, proposed target 4 read as follows: by 2030, there has been at least a 50% reduction in the number of plant species threatened by international trade and by unsustainable levels of harvesting. That is where I see the natural link with CITES collaboration and future work once we have more clarity in the future of GSPC. Of course, this is still in progress. And as chair of SOBSTA, I'll do my best to draw the attention to the open-ended working group on post-2020 co-chairs on these collaborations. So let's wait to the decisions taken by CBD to continue our work, and as clearly now is proposed to go through the new decisions to continue. But just to let you know that there is already that target 4, which replaced the old target 11 on no species threatened by international trade, which is the role of CITES. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mexico. I see no further requests for the floor from observer parties, unless someone would like to do so now. If not, I'd like to open the floor to observers. I see no requests for the floor from observer parties. Observers. Any requests for the floor from observers? The floor is open. I see no requests, which leads me to this conclusion. In the light of what I have heard, the Plants Committee has accepted the draft decision in the document addendum. I would like to thank you. Very well. We can now begin our day's work. Sadly, we're over an hour late, but that's just the way things go. It's best that people express themselves if they have views to share. So we are now going to begin today's meeting with agenda item 32. We have orchids checklists 32.1, 32.2. I will open our discussion on these two items once we have had them introduced. I would like to give the floor to the Republic of Korea to introduce 32.1. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to introduce agenda item PC25, the 32.1. On behalf of the Korean government, I would like to thank all of you who made a great effort to make the checklist include over 28,000 species of Orchidaceae, which accounts for more than 8% of the CITES listed species. I believe your efforts have contributed to the solid foundation to implement the convention in scientific manner. Since many orchid species which are not listed on the checklist distributed narrowly at the regional or national level, we believe that the checklist will be completed sooner if each part actively investigates and cooperates. Due to their small population, these orchid species are so vulnerable to be driven extinction by very small number of transactions. Also, it is hard for enforcement officers to identify easily whether the plant is subject to the convention if their name is not included in the checklist. Based on this situation, the Korean Scientific Authority has noted the checklist omitted 19 taxa out of 118 indigenous orchid species on the Korean Peninsula. We submit our data as an annex of this document and PC25 information 17. Therefore, the delegation would like to request the plant committee to review the documents and annex, and if appropriate, to include the outcome on the checklist. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Republic of Korea, for introducing this document 32.1. I would now like to invite the United Kingdom to take the floor to introduce 32.2. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Appendix 2 Orchid Checklist was submitted by the UK in collaboration with UNEP WCMC. The document presents the comparison of Appendix 2 orchids from the World Checklist of selected plant families and the current CITES nomenclature standard references for orchids. A detailed list with the proposed changes is available in PC 25 Doc 32.2 Annex 1. There are a total of 3,694 changes. We wish to thank the Nomenclature Specialists, the Plants Committee, the US, and the Republic of Korea for their contributions and feedback received through the informal Nomenclature Working Group and PC 25 Doc 32. The Plants Committee are invited to review the revisions proposed to the existing standard references for Appendix 2 orchids and recommend the proposed checklist to be adopted at the 19th CITES Conference of the Parties. Thank you.
I would like to thank the United Kingdom for that introduction. The committee is invited to include the recommendations in the document in the sessional working group that can be set up under 32.1. The working group on nomenclature is invited to consider the document and its annexes, and if possible, include it in our documentation. I would like to invite committee members to take the floor on these proposals. I see no requests for the floor. Observer parties now. The floor is yours. Algeria, you have the floor. Algeria has requested the floor. You have the floor, Algeria. I would like to thank those responsible for these very useful documents where we have the orchids in Appendix 1 and 2 separately, and we have a very detailed list of changes proposed in 32.2. Annex 1 gives us an Excel table which represents an enormous amount of work. It's going to be very, very helpful when it comes to the conservation and sustainable trade in orchids. With respect to the Korean document 32.1, I would like to thank Korea for that compilation, and we would certainly endorse the recommendation made. That is that taxa with a limited habitat not appear in the list, particularly if there is incomplete information as to their range. There are over 70 orchids in Algeria, some of which are endemic with a very, very highly local and restricted habitat. In summary, we recommend the recommendation made by the Republic of Korea as to there being a addition made to the list so that the regional and national orchid species be added to the list given their vulnerability. Thank you. The Chair. Thank you, Algeria, for that statement. Would any other parties like to take the floor? I see no requests for the floor. The observers now have the floor. The floor is open to observers. I see no requests. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The Plans Committee would invite the Working Group on Nomenclature to take up items 32.1 and 32.2. We can now move on to agenda item 31, which is the report of the nomenclature specialist. I would like to give the floor to Ronelle Klopper. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The document PC 25 Doc 31 and its addendum summarizes the progress achieved in the implementation of decisions on nomenclature for flora and on the work plan for the Plants Committee in matters relating to nomenclature. This covers several aspects relevant to checklists and standard references for aloes, Pachypodium, cacti, ebonies and rosewoods, orchids, taxa species, and Gibbertia. Deliberations thus far have moved its topics forward to varying degrees, but could not fully conclude all matters. Concerning progress on the Dalbergia checklist, I invite the committee to note that this will be addressed separately under agenda item 34. Concerning CITES checklists for aloes and Pachypodium, progress achieved is reflected in paragraphs 5 and 6 of the addendum. These checklists will be updated as separate documents, and a way forward was suggested for the aloes. Concerning the utility of the current Cactaceae checklist, feedback was received, but consensus could not be reached on a way forward. Concerning an annotated checklist for Malagasy species of Diospyros, The addendum acknowledges that this remains a priority and includes a way forward for further consideration at the present meeting. The review and update of current standard references for Appendix 2 listed orchids that was just discussed under Agenda Item 32 through the documents respectively submitted by Korea and the United Kingdom. Madam Chair, I confirm that we will take these onto consideration in the nomenclature work of the committee. It was agreed that the current checklist of the current standard reference for taxes is not valid and that it needs to be replaced, and that there might also be a need to update or amend the listings of these species on Appendix 2. It was agreed that an amendment to the CITES checklist of Gibbertia is required. During the deliberations, a few new topics were raised that could be included in the work plan of the Plants Committee relating to nomenclatural issues in the lead-up to the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. Madam Chair, depending on the outcome of the discussions, I suggest for your consideration the establishment of an in-session working group in line with the revised recommendations contained in paragraph 16 of the addendum document, including noting the progress made and to formulate recommendations on some of these topics, including the drafting on nomenclature-related decisions where appropriate. And the Plants Committee is invited to report the outcomes of this work at COP19. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci.
I would like to thank the nomenclature specialist for her detailed report. With respect to the Dalbergia lists and others, we will deal with them in under items 34 and 35.
So, of a working group chaired by the nomenclature specialist, Mrs. Ronelle Klopper, with the following mandate. A. Consider document PC 25 Doc 31 and its addendum and documents PC 25 Doc 32.1 and 32.2. B. Concerning aloe and pachypodium, consider the progress and recommendation reported in paragraph 5 and 6 of the addendum to PC 25 Doc 31 and the pertinence of drafting nomenclature-related decisions to favor this work for consideration of the 19th meeting of the Conference of the Party, COP19. C. Concerning CACTA CIE, consider the progress and recommendations reported in paragraph 7 and the annex of the addendum to PC 25 Doc 31 and the pertinence of revising and extending the mandate of decision 18304 to 18306 on nomenclature, CACTA CIE checklist and its supplements for consideration at COP19. D. Concerning Diospyros species, populations of Madagascar, consider the progress and recommendation reported in paragraph 8 of the addendum to PC 25 Doc 31 and the pertinence of drafting nomenclature-based decision for consideration at COP19. E. Concerning Orchida CIE, consider the progress reporting in paragraph 9 of the present addendum together with the update and checklists contained in document PC 25 Doc 32 32.1 and PC 25 Doc 32.2, and the pertinence of drafting nomenclature, related decisions and recommendations for considerations of COP19. F. Concerning taxus species, consider the progress and recommendations reported in paragraph 10 of the addendum to PC 25 Doc 31 and develop recommendation to update the standard nomenclature references in resolution conf 12.11 Rev COP 18 for considerations at COP 19. G. Concerning Gibourcia species, consider the progress and recommendations reported in paragraph 11 of the addendum to PC 25.31 and develop recommendation to update standard nomenclature references in resolution conf 12.11 Rev COP 18 for consideration at COP 19. And H. Concerning new priorities in matters related to nomenclature, consider paragraph 12 to 15 of the addendum to PC 25 Doc 31 and develop recommendations for consideration at COP 19, including drafting nomenclature-related decisions where appropriate. Voici, j'ai fait lecture du mandat du groupe de travail.
So that covers the mandate for the working group, which will be chaired by the nomenclature specialist, Ronelle Klopper, and I would just like to open the floor for the specialist to check that the mandate is correct. Thank you.
Chair, yes, the mandate seems to be correct, and I will be willing to chair that working group, just to confirm that as well. Thanks.
Thank you to the specialist for nomenclature for confirming that you will chair the working group. I'd now like to invite committee members to express their interest in participating in this working group. Members of the committee. For now, I am only opening this to members of the committee. So now if we could remove any other requests for the floor from the list. So we have the chair, who is the nomenclature specialist, Ms. Ronelle Klopper. Then we have the representative for Africa, Mr. Ali Maman. We have the representative for Central South America and the Caribbean, Ms. Fabiola. Any other requests? No. So if we could clear the list, please, Secretariat, then I will give the floor to parties, observer parties. We have Madagascar. Madagascar. You want to join the working group? Thank you for having responded. Now I will read the list of participants. Korea, Thailand, United Kingdom, United States of America, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Madagascar, Peru, Mexico, Cambodia, may I close this list for parties? Yes. Oh, we have China. Thank you. With China, that is 13, says the Secretariat. Thank you to the Secretariat. So we have room for a maximum of 13 observers. Would you please express your interest in participating in the working group? The floor is open for observers. Thank you. I think we can close the list. So rapidly, we have the chair will be the specialist, nomenclature specialist, then Mr. Ali Maman, the Africa representative, the representative for Central, South America and the Caribbean, Fabiola Nunes. And then as parties, we have the Republic of Korea, Thailand, UK, USA, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Madagascar, Peru, Mexico, Cambodia, China. And as observers, we have UNEP WCMC, HSI, RBGE. Thank you to everyone. So now I will move to the next item of our agenda, which is item 34 on the production of a CITES checklist for Dalbergia species, decision 18.308. And I will give the floor to the Secretariat to present this item. Thank you.
Yeah. The document and its addendum were drafted by the Secretariat in cooperation with the nomenclature specialist that we just heard. They outline progress in the implementation of Decision 18307 and 18308, with emphasis on the CITES checklist for the Dalbergia species, commissioned by the Secretariat and developed by Royal Botanical Gardens in Kew in the United Kingdom. Annex 1 to the addendum summarizes the methodology that has been followed to produce the checklist. Annex 2 consists of an Excel document with the results of an extensive literature review about the taxa concerned. Madam Chair, in paragraph 8 of the addendum, the Secretariat makes several recommendations for consideration by the Plants Committee. We believe that they could also be the mandate for an in-sessional working group. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Je remercie le Secrétariat pour...
I thank the Secretariat for this presentation. Before I open the floor, I'd like to inform you that I intend to establish a working group on this item as suggested by the Secretariat. So I now open the floor to members of the committee to make their comments on the potential revisions to Resolution Conf 16.10. The floor is open to the members. The chair's microphone is not switched on. There are no requests for the floor from members of the Plants Committee until now. So now I will open the floor to parties, observer parties, to request the floor if they would like to comment. We have the United Kingdom. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The UK would like to thank the Secretariat and the Nomenclature Specialist for submitting this document. And we'd also like to thank the Secretariat for commissioning the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew to undertake the Dalbergia checklist. for CITES. Q has been working with a team of international legumosis specialists for the World Flora online project. A download of the Dobergia names from the World Checklist of selected plant families was compared with literature references provided by the nomenclature specialist and the nomenclature working group. This was checked by the World Flora online legumosis specialists. We would like to thank the nomenclature specialist and the working group for providing these references. PC 25 Document 34 Addendum outlines progress on the checklist since May 2020, and we welcome any feedback on Annex 2. Q continues to work on the checklist to clarify any nomenclature issues and to gather information to submit a draft checklist to the Secretariat for further consideration. Thank you.
Merci pour votre intervention.
Thank you for your comments. There appear to be no further requests from parties. So now I open the floor for any observers, and I would ask for as much brevity as possible. Observers, the floor is open.
Okay, pas de...
Okay, no request for the floor. So I will now read in English the mandate of the working group.
On item 34, I propose the establishment of a working group chaired by the nomenclature specialist, Mrs. Ronelle Klopper, with the following mandate. A. Consider document PC 25 Doc 34 and its addendum. B. Review annexes 1 and 2 to the addendum and provide comments for consideration by RBGQ. C. Develop advice for the Secretariat and RBGQ in the process of developing the checklist as per step I, paragraph 3 of document PC 25 Doc 34. D. Consider the pertinence of including the final checklist as a standard reference in Resolution COP 12.11, Rev COP 18 on standard nomenclature, and E. Propose to the Conference of the Party the extension and revision of Decision 18307 and 8308 as contained in paragraph 8E of the addendum to document PC 25 Doc 34. Voici lecture du.
So that is the reading of the mandate. And now I would like to request a confirmation from the nomenclature specialist that she is willing to chair this working group. You have the floor.
Yes, I confirm that I am willing to chair this working group.
Merci. J'invite donc...
Thank you. So now I invite members of the committee to express their interest in participating in this working group. Committee members. Nomenclature specialist, would you please sign up? Other members of the Plants Committee? No. So we have the nomenclature specialist as a member. Could we please clear the list so that parties may put their names down? The floor is open to indicate your request to join. So we have Thailand, UK, Madagascar, China, Austria, Cambodia, India. So that means we have 8 members and parties. Oh, and we have the United States who are adding their name. Now we open for observers who would like to participate. So we'll clear the list, and we have CSFI, the International Wood Products Association. I can't see the full name, says the chair. No other expressions of interest. So I close the list, and I will rapidly read the list of members. So we have the nomenclature specialist who will chair Thailand, United Kingdom, Madagascar, China, Austria, Cambodia, India, United States, CFFI and International Wood Products as observers. So I close this working group, and we'll move on to the next item of our agenda, which is item 38 and 39, which will be presented by the representative for the Europe region, Ms. Ursula Moser. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finally, it's working. I thank you for your chairing. It's wonderful, and I congratulate. I also would like to thank the Secretariat for their support, and the document PC 2025 Doc 37 by the Secretariat, PC 25 Doc 38 by Switzerland and Liechtenstein, and the addendum to the document PC 25 Doc 38 by the Secretariat in collaboration with the regional representative of Europe relate to the implementation of decisions 18.327 to 18.330 on products containing specimens of Appendix 2 orchids. In document PC 25 Doc 37, the Secretariat reviews available information on the conservation impacts of potential exemptions of orchid specimens from CITES regulations and proposes additional studies to address this matter further. In document PC 25 Doc 38, Switzerland presents its intention to submit a listing proposal relating to exemptions of trade in specimens of 5 orchid species. The Plants Committee is invited to A. Consider priorities for additional research as proposed in paragraph 8 of document PC 25 Doc 37. B. Consider the amendment to annotation #4 as proposed by Switzerland in paragraph 11 of document PC 25 Doc 38 and the best way of contributing findings in this regard to the ongoing discussion in the Standing Committee's Intersessional Working Group on Annotations. C. Consider the adoption of the draft decisions contained in the annex to the present addendum, and D, as per decision 18.239 paragraph C, make recommendations to the Standing Committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, Madame.
I thank the representative for Europe for the presentation. Before I give the floor to members of the committee and parties, I would like to inform you of my intention to establish a working group on this item. Now I open the floor for members of the committee so that they can give their comments on the potential revisions of Resolution 16.10. Members of the committee, the floor is open. So I now give the floor to the representative for the Central, South America and Caribbean region, Ms. Núñez. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank everyone for overcoming the technical problems and allowing us to speak. I'd like to thank the Secretariat for drawing up these documents, and we would like to express our support for the recommendations suggested. The analysis carried out on products which contain specimens from Appendix 2 orchids allows us to see that the majority of international commerce evaluated as cosmetic products and medicinal products would be linked to specimens that are artificially reproduced. Nevertheless, we consider it important to carry out additional studies as suggested in order to have other mechanisms which guarantee the certification and traceability of finished products in order to avoid the entry of material from wildlife, from the wild. Thank you.
Merci, Madame. Je n'ai pas vu d'autres demandes d'intervention.
Thank you. I have seen no other requests for members of the Plants Committee. Now I give the floor to Mexico. Mexico, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mexico takes note of the information contained in the document and its addendum. However, Mexico does not agree with the proposal to amend with the addition of a new paragraph G, since we think it is premature until we have the results of the study proposed in the document PC25 Doc 37. And we need to ensure that the proposal will not harm wild populations of the identified orchid species in the international trade for cosmetics, and that it doesn't allow for the illegal harvesting of the orchids. So we recommend to the Plants Committee that we do not amend annotation 4 at this moment. Thank you. Thank you, Mexico. I have taken note of your comments. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China would like to take the opportunity to appreciate the preparation of the document by Secretariat Switzerland and Liechtenstein. In general, China is supposed to propose an amendment to annotation 4 to exempt some finished products of 5 specific orchid species. Since the evidence from the case studies indicates that almost no any wild harvested specimens of these orchids are found in some internationally traded finished products. This exemption
Oui, je comprends.
Yes, I understand
afin que je puisse peut-être passer au...
To have lost the sound, how can we communicate with China, says the chair.
I wonder if the Kudo technician can interfere.
Et voilà. Ben, en attendant, je passe la parole à la...
The connection to be resumed, I give the floor to Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Korea would like to express our gratitude for the study and great efforts from the Secretariat and the Switzerland regarding these agenda documents. The Korea delegation agrees with the review from the Secretariat about the exemption of the finished products, including orchids. We believe when there are answers, many parties would agree to the 4 questions from the Secretariat. Those products will be able to be exempt from the CITES Convention. However, we hope the further study on new draft decision 19AA would not be for the entire Okinawa. If so, we expect it will take a very long time and tremendous budget to finish the study. The delegation believes that setting an appropriate scope of further research is instrumental in conducting efficient study, considering analysis of the results. We also would like to have an opportunity to express our opinions in detail at the in-session working group. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair's microphone. Thank you. Thank you. I would now like to ask Ireland, Germany, and the UK if your interventions are along the same lines or not. If it is the case, I would prefer to give the floor to observers, 2 observers, if possible, so that we can advance, because we have still got quite a number of items on our agenda to cover. So I'd like to thank the parties who have withdrawn their request for the floor. I see Ireland has not withdrawn. Yes, they have. Thank you to the parties. Now, observers, could we please have 2 observers who have any opinion that is contrary to what we have heard so far? If not, I will read the information on the working group so that we can establish it. So I'll read the mandate so that we can rapidly establish the group and that discussions can take place within that working group. Thank you. Reading in English.
Having heard the views from the floor on item 37 and item 38, I would like to propose the establishment of an in-session working group chaired by the representative of Europe, Mrs. Ursula Moser, with the mandate. The mandate 2, A, consider priorities for additional research as proposed in paragraph 8 of document PC25 Doc 37. Consider B, consider the amendment to annotation DS4 as proposed by Switzerland in paragraph 11 of document PC25 Doc 38 and the best way of contributing findings in this regard to the ongoing discussions on the Standing Committee's Intersessional Working Group on Annotation. C, consider the adoption of the draft decisions contained in the annex to the present addendum, and to D, report its recommendations to the plenary. Voici lecture faite du groupe de travail. Madame...
You have the list of members of the mandate for the working group, could I ask Ms. Moser if she's willing to chair the sessional working group? You have the floor.
Qui ne dit mot consent.
That silence is golden. I'll take it for a yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you, Madam Chair. I will be willing to chair this working group.
Merci, Madame la.
I would like to thank the representative for Europe. We will now see who would like to be members of the working group. So I would ask members of the Plants Committee who would like to be members to request the floor, including Ms. Moser, please. Please request the floor. Thank you. Other members who would like to be involved in the working group, please request the floor. If there are no further requests from members, observer parties, please request the floor if you would like to join the sessional working group on this item. The Netherlands, Korea, the United States, the United Kingdom, Thailand, Ireland, Canada, China, Peru, Cambodia, India, Madagascar. That's it. Thank you. Secretariat. Thank you. I would now like to invite up to 13 observers to request the floor in order to join the working group. Forest trends, traffic, HAPA, IUCN. That's it. Thank you very much. Let's clear the floor request. Let me quickly read out the list of working group members. The representative for Europe, the Netherlands, Korea, the United States, the UK, Thailand, Ireland, Canada, China, Peru, Cambodia, India, Madagascar. Forest trends, traffic, HAPA, and IUCN. Thank you very much. Which means that we can conclude our consideration of this item, which brings us to the second part of this day. That is agenda item 19, identification of timber and other wood products, decision 18-140. This item will be introduced by Rosemary Nyam, the representative for North America. You have the floor.
I wish to express my thanks to the CITES Secretariat and the working group members for their assistance and input into the intersessional working group discussions that resulted in the outcomes and report of the working group in document PC25, document 19. This report or addendum outlines the progress made in the implementation of decisions 18.140 to 18.143 and 16.58 Rev Cop 18 The annex to the addendum consists of the revised compendium of timber identification resources modified by the Secretariat from information document PC25 INF 11. Given the extraordinary circumstances this past year associated with the pandemic and the plentiful work directed to this working group from COP18, we accomplished much, but we were unable to complete all the tasks. The working group report contains recommendations in paragraph 39 of the addendum, which relates to the publication of the compendium in the annex by the Secretariat, and draft decisions are contained in paragraph 39C to continue this important work post COP19 on the identification of timber and other wood products. There was a recognition in the working group that different tools are needed for different users of timber identification. First at the front line by customs officials, and then secondarily by forensics analysis by those who have to identify the products that customs officials send their way. And the decisions reflect this. So therefore, hoping that we may not need to go to a working group, given the many we have created, but the decisions may need some further clarity or focus, and perhaps a small drafting group could address those rather than an entire working group. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I would like to thank the North American Region representative, Rosemary Nyam, for that statement. The floor is now open to Plants Committee members for any observations they might like to make on this agenda item 19. The floor is open to members. We are going to hear from the representative of the Central and South American region and the Caribbean. Fabiola, you have the floor. Thank you, Madam. I would like, first of all, to thank those responsible for the documents on this matter, which give us a number of details about what has been done with respect to every one of the decisions adopted. This document provides significant information and guidelines, and I certainly would support the revised recommendations. I would like to take this opportunity to share with you the fact that within the context of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, there is the opportunity to have a second phase of the BioAmazonia project. This is an opportunity to have member countries negotiate and work with the Kew Gardens, with KFW. And this means that we have an opportunity to strengthen the taxonomic research into tree species that are CITES appendix listed in the Amazon region. This is a matter that would be of great use, and we certainly hope to keep you updated on further developments. Thank you, Madam.
Merci, Madame la représentante.
I would like to thank the representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean. I have had another request from the North American region representative. You have the floor, Madam.
Madam Chair, and I am speaking now as the North American Regional. Thank you, Madam Chair. I am speaking now as the North American Regional Representative, and my region has some comments on the document, so clearly the chair of the working group doesn't always please everyone. The North American region commends the working group on wood identification for the progress it reports in the addendum to document PC25, document 19, and for its determination in advancing the terms of reference of the working group under challenging conditions. We note the working group suggests in paragraph 38 of the addendum to document PC 2519 that because of difficulties inherent in addressing the complex issues of its mandate virtually during the pandemic, the working group considers that its mandate may not be fulfilled during the present intercessional period and recommends that the decisions 18.140, 18.142, and decision 16.58, Rev Cup 18, may need to be renewed or revised so the work may continue in the next intercessional period post-Cup 19. The North American region supports the suggestion and believes that facilitating the development of research techniques and operational tools that support wood identification, strengthen CITES implementation, and address illegal harvest and trade of forest products. It represents an area of critical capacity for CITES parties seeking to address illegal harvest and illegal trade in wood products. We note that additional information was compiled, as noted in paragraph 10 of the document, addendum, which the group was not able to fully consider, but which could further inform efforts of this group. We further believe that the continuance of the terms of reference and mandate of the Wood Identification Working Group, as presented in the revised recommendations and draft decisions, represents an important means by which the outcome may be achieved. Therefore, the North American region wishes to suggest an amendment to the revised recommendations in subparagraph B of paragraph 39 of the addendum to document 19, as well as a new proposed decision 19.DD directed to the Plants Committee. We could either read the proposed amendments now or bring them for discussion in the possible in-session working group. And my suggestion would be that perhaps these amendments from the North American region could be basically suggested to the Secretariat or could go into the small drafting group, but I'm happy to read them out if you want them now. Thank you.
I would like to thank you for that statement. Not sure which hat you were wearing anymore, but thank you, Rosemary Nim, for that statement. Now, we have 2 or 3 scenarios before us, so we could have a plenary decision, an in-session working group, or a drafting committee. I think that it might be a good idea to have a drafting committee. If that is to be done, perhaps I could invite you to quickly read out your proposed amendment, Ms. Nyam, so that the Plants Committee can be aware of what you have in mind. Once we've heard from you, we can see which one of the 3 possible scenarios we will opt for. So before I give the floor to Spain, could I ask you to quickly read out your proposed amendments? You have the floor.
Donc, je donne la parole à Madame. Voilà.
You have the floor now. I'm giving you the floor as a member of the committee.
And I will be reading these amendments as the North American region representative. They are suggesting these amendments, not as as chair of the working group. I will read them slowly. In paragraph 39 of PC 25, Doc 19 addendum, we wish to add the following text to subparagraph B, which reads, the Plants Committee is invited to request the Secretariat, and here we would add this phrase, request the Secretariat in close collaboration with the Plants Committee and with relevant experts to publish on the relevant section, and the rest of the text all says the same. Essentially, we're asking for collaboration in doing this activity with the Plants Committee and experts. Additionally, To ensure the continuation of the working group's mandate, the North American region proposes the inclusion of a revision of Decision 18.140 directed to the Plants Committee as a new draft decision 19.DD as follows. This is essentially the same decision from COP 18.140 with two changes from the original, which I'll read out. The Plants Committee shall, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders and building on information on existing initiatives, and this is the new phrase, and progress to date. We think this decision needs to note the progress that has been done at this Plants Committee meeting. And then we would make a change to paragraph E so that it reads, update the Standing Committee as appropriate on progress made on the implementation of decisions 19.AA to 19.EE and report its findings and recommendations for consideration by the Conference of the Parties at the 20th meeting, so that the work would continue intersessionally during post-COP19 to COP20. And then if this decision is accepted, this new decision, the current draft 19.DD directed to the Standing Committee then gets renumbered as 19.EE. And I would be happy to provide these changes, I think I have, to the Secretariat, but can send them again. Thank you.
I would like to thank the North American region representative for having read out these proposed amendments. I would like to ask if the proposed amendments as read out do meet with your agreement. So first of all, committee members. Spain, I see that you've requested the floor. I'm just waiting to see whether there is a member of the Plants Committee who would like to take the floor, after which I will give it to you. And that will give you the opportunity to tell me whether or not you support the North America region proposal. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you, madam. This is not, I didn't ask to take the floor to talk about the working group. I simply wish to talk about a study that we have just carried out in the ministry, and we wanted to provide information to the Plants Committee as we think it would be of use for customs services. It's a matter of there being an app for mobile phones which can help customs officials. We simply wish to inform you of this recent development, and we will be forwarding the information to the Secretariat. Thank you. Thank you, Spain, for that information. We have taken note. China, could I ask if you are wishing to take the floor to say whether or not you were in favor of the proposed amendments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. China provided responses to the questionnaire on submitting research organizations and experts of timber identification. Here, China would like to share information of wood identification, especially recent progress after COP18 as follows. China distinctly promoted and applied the barcoding for forsake timber identification with the reference library of endangered timber species has been established, and the technology has been successfully transferred to the law enforcement application of China customs. Meanwhile, a portable device, iWord, for timber species was developed based on image database, computer vision, and deep learning in 2020, which could identify 15 Dabgeia species and 11 Pithecanthropus species. In addition, China cooperated with the International Association of Wood Anatomists, IAA, and the International Union of Forestry Research Organization, UFOR, organizing the international conference focusing on wood identification. UFOR Research Group Wood Identification, initiated by China, was newly established in conjunction with 40 experts from 9 countries. Those events has been highlighted by UFOR Annual Report 2020. China welcomed global cooperative efforts on advancing wood identification technology, including sampling, technology development, database establishment, and sharing for the better studies implementation. And finally, China will provide experience and experts to support the relevant work. Thanks, Madam Chair.
I would like to thank the representative of China for that statement. I would like to wrap up our discussions of this agenda item as we have more work to do. I would like to invite Spain to make their document available to the Secretariat to this point that she raised with relation to wood identification. In conclusion, I would say the following. The Plants Committee invites the Secretariat to take note of the proposed amendments which were read out in the course of this meeting. Thank you for your understanding. We have a certain number of items before us, and I'm going to suggest that we tackle first of all those items that are likely to require in-session working groups. I'm going to begin with items 27 and 28. This is the item to do with the Prunus africanus, 18260, and African tree species, decision 17302. These will be introduced by the African region representative, Ali Mahaman. You have the floor, sir. The speaker appears to be mid-statement, the interpreter would point out. So we're referring to 1860 to 62 decisions on Prunus africanus and decision 1762 on African tree species, 17302. The Plants Committee is invited to review the recommendations on Prunus africana in the annex to the addendum, and if necessary, request that the Secretariat publish them on their website. Secondly, consider the relevance of draft decisions in paragraph 13 of the addendum. And thirdly, report on this work to the COP. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to thank the representative for the Africa region. The floor is open to committee members. I'd like to hear their views on this presentation. Committee members? Rose Marignam, the North American region representative, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The North American region takes note of document PC 25, document 28 on African tree species and its addendum, which also references PC 25, document 27 on Prunus africana. We support the draft decisions 19AA, 19BB, and 19CC related to African tree species. However, the North American region does not support the recommendation in paragraph 13 little b of PC 25 document 28 addendum, which pertains to document PC 25 document 27 and the implementation of decision 18.260, and directs the Secretariat to publish the annex to document PC 25 document 28 addendum. We believe that the information in the annex requires additional discussion and revision. We strongly support the important collaborative efforts on African tree species and recommend that the continued work on methodologies for sustainable harvest or other work to inform non-detriment findings should include documented, substantiated information that is published in scientific literature, field study reports, species experts, or otherwise supported with verifiable and reproducible documentation. And perhaps this methodology could be discussed at a future NDF workshop. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, Madame la.
I would like to thank the representative of the North America region. Could I ask if any other plant committee members would like to take the floor? If not, I would like to open the floor to observer parties. The floor is open. The floor is open to observer parties. Would you like to express your views? It would be useful to hear your views in order to draw a conclusion from this discussion. Could I suggest that observers take the floor on these items then? I see no request for the floor. I have a question for you, and I would ask you to please reply. Do you think it is necessary for us to set up a working group for this agenda item? I'm putting this question first of all to Plants Committee members, then I will ask observer parties and then observers. I see one request for the floor from the North American region representative. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not see a need for a working group, although we would seek a clarification if our recommendation to basically make the change we had suggested, we didn't hear any dissenting views. And so if there aren't any, we wouldn't see a need for a working group, and our change could also be accommodated. Thank you.
Merci, Madame la représentante.
Thank you to the representative of North America region. I now give the floor to observer parties. I see no request for the floor. Observers. There are no requests for the floor. So we now have the scenario where there is no working group that needs to be established.
For your views on items 27 and 28, I would like to propose the committee to agree on requesting the Secretariat to publish the recommendations on Prunus africana contained in the annex to the addendum, and to submit the draft decision contained in paragraph 12 of the addendum to the conference of the party.
Madam Chair, I believe that the proposition of the North American region was to delete revised recommendation little b, and so not to request the Secretariat to publish the recommendation on Prunus africanus contained in the annex to the addendum. I believe that that was the sense of the proposition of North American region. And so the Plants Committee would simply agree to submit the draft decisions contained in paragraph 13 of the addendum to the conference of parties.
Okay. Merci, Secretariat.
I thank the Secretariat. Should I reread to ensure that paragraph A was not included, or can we carry on? Secretariat? Your microphone is not on, Secretariat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that I can only assume that my explanation was understood by everybody, but you can of course repeat it once more and ask for the feedback from the Plants Committee membership.
Merci, Secretariat. Aussi.
Thank you to the Secretariat. So, members of the Plants Committee, have you understood that we will not request the Secretariat to publish the recommendations on Prunus africana, and rather to submit the draft decisions contained in paragraph 13 of the addendum to the conference of the parties? Do the members of the Plants Committee agree to this proposal? Good. I see no request for the floor. So I propose that we progress in that way with the submission of the draft decisions in paragraph 13 of the addendum to the conference of the parties. I herewith close this agenda item, and now I will move to the next item, which is 26, which is on Agarwood. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, says the interpreter. Rosewood trees. And I think we'll finish today's meeting with this item on the agenda. And we'll leave item 16 on Malagasy palisanders, rosewoods and ebonies, and we leave 36 on annotation 15 for the 23rd of June. So now we are on item 26. As I have said, and I will open the discussion once the point item 26 has been opened. We have 3 sub-items, 26.1, 26.2 and 26.3. So I will give the Secretariat the floor to introduce the report on this item.
And I will be speaking about item 1, the first item under this agenda item. Document PC25, document 26.1 by the Secretariat contains the analysis of the responses to notification that was published in support of decision 18234. This analysis allowed for a preliminary identification of species known to be traded under the common business name rosewood, as well as preliminary prioritization of CITES listed and non-CITES listed rosewoods for the purpose of the workshop called for in the same decision. The Secretariat would like to thank all parties and stakeholders for their significant contributions and extensive replies that they provided through this notification. As noted in the document, funds for the implementation of Decision 12234 remain to be identified, but we have been able to make in-kind progress in preparation for a study and the workshop requested in this decision. The progress of the document has been served as a basis for the establishment of the intersessional working group of the Plants Committee, the outcomes of which are reported in detail on the agenda item 26.3. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, Secretariat, pour...
I thank the Secretariat for presenting that. I now would like to open the floor to the representative for Europe to present item 26.2 on international trade in African Pterocarpus rosewood species. African Pterocarpus rosewood species. The representative of Europe, you have the floor.
Le représentant de l'Europe est...
Do we have the representative for Europe? Are they available to present item 26.2 on our agenda? Thank you. So we have Paolo Carmo, the representative for Europe on the Plants Committee. You have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente, mais le document a été présenté par l'Union européenne.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The document was presented by the European Union, so I would like to ask our colleague from Belgium who should present this document. Thank you. Thank you. The representative for Belgium, you have the floor.
Alors, le présent document vise à contribuer à la
document aims to assist with the implementation of decisions 17302, 18.92 and 18236. Now these species on various continents impact on rosewood. Various African species of Pterocarpus are commercialized under the name of rosewood. Included in these species, we have already thought it was useful to include Pterocarpus erinaceus and Pterocarpus tinctorius, and we know that there are still issues, and we have spoken of these. There are also problems on other Pterocarpus from Africa species for the following reasons. Their taxonomy is confused. The risks of identification of trees in living forest and also of cut wood and commercialized, so the risk of similar species exists, and there are numerous threats to these species, including illegal trading, the natural growth speed, and others which I don't need to name. So until we have advanced in terms of identification of living specimens, and that we have the regulations for CITES on Pterocarpus species and the protection of the lookalike species, we consider that they should be managed jointly. So we think a listing in the appendices would be a very good manner to achieve this. Recommendations which are in the document are the following. In the application of Decision 17302, the Plants Committee is invited to A. Consider the information provided in this document. B. Should an intersessional working group on African tree species be established as per document PC 25.28, agree for it to include within its priorities the assessment of the available scientific, technical, and more specifically taxonomic aspects regarding the African species of the genus Pterocarpus that are affected by the international commercial pressure on rosewood timber. C. Should an intersessional working group on rosewood tree species, Leguminosæ fabaceae, be established as per document PC 25 doc 26.1, agree for it to consider as appropriate the findings of the present document in preparation for the study and international workshop called for under paragraphs A and B of decision 18.234, and D. Invite the nomenclature specialist to assess the nomenclatural issues regarding these African species in the genus Pterocarpus. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I thank the representative of Belgium. As was previously announced, the floor will be opened after the presentation of the report of the working group, which will be presented by the representative of the Central, South America and Caribbean region, Mr. Cesar Beltetan. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I am pleased to present the document 26.3 on the working group on rosewood tree species. Leguminosae fabaceae. The document has been prepared by the representatives for Central and South America and the Caribbean, the representative for Europe, and the representative for Asia as co-chairs of the working group. At its 18th meeting, the Conference of the Parties adopted Decision 18.236 on rosewood tree species, and it requested that the Plants Committee consider the progress reported by the Secretariat and make recommendations regarding the study and need for international workshop referred to under Decision 18.234. And they also requested the final study and outcomes of the workshop, if held, to make recommendations on how to enhance implementation of CITES listed rosewood species at the next meeting, the COP. In order to facilitate submission of the report, we worked with the Secretariat, and we were able to establish the membership of the group. A questionnaire was prepared, and we thank Germany, Canada, USA, Mexico, and WWF for their contributions. In terms of the document, I'm going to give a very brief summary of the content, and I'm only going to refer to some parts in order to save time, since the project is available. On the progress reported in document PC 25 at 26.1, Germany reported it agrees with most of the recommendations. Nonetheless, with regard to 10D, it considers that the impact of trade on wild populations of Pterocarpus santalinus is still a major concern. The ongoing illegal harvesting and trade are documented through continued seizures and the subsequent auction of seized material. Despite the fact that source code W is no longer used for this trade, wild populations are directly affected. Mexico also agreed with most of the conclusions drawn from the Secretariat's analysis. Nonetheless, it made the following observations. In subparagraph 8b, it has just shared with CITES Secretariat a handbook for these Dalbergia species, but it agrees that the information presented on the basis of the questionnaire and the Excel document on rosewood species listed in Appendix 2 should be taken into account in the study and the planning of the workshop. And it also referred to subparagraphs 8b, c, d, and 8a, with some corrections for the scientific names that have been badly written. On the international workshop, Canada indicated that we have to manage collaboration with manufacturers who use rosewood, finished rosewood, in order to obtain financial support. On the subject of the availability of external resources for the study and the organization of an international study, Germany, Canada, USA, Mexico, and WWF provided some recommendations which are in the document, and I would like to highlight some. So, for example, the awareness raising on the aspects of the species, work with the subjects on the area, and also collaborate with silviculture, look at the processes for the identification of the timber, in particular the production of materials and identification tools that can assist. And the workshop should produce a list of candidates for inclusion when we're looking at genus level wherever possible. As recommendations, we invite the Plants Committee to base themselves on the progress achieved in the implementation of decisions 18.234 and 18.237, and to consider the pertinence of the following draft decisions for consideration of the Conference of the Parties. They appear in the document. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I thank the representative for Central, South America and the Caribbean. We have taken note of the items raised in your intervention, and as agreed at the beginning of the presentation of this item, I would like to give the floor to members of the Plants Committee to comment on item 26, which we are examining. And I also invite observer parties and observers, bearing in mind that we have 10 minutes left in order to conclude today's meeting. So I would be most grateful if everyone could be brief in their interventions so that we can arrive at a conclusion on this item. So I offer the floor to the representative for the Africa region, Mr. Ali Moman. Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank all those who have spoken before me for the presentation on Pterocarpus. Indeed, this species is a subject of concern for range states in West Africa. And this has led university researchers to start research work on the species because there's a great deal of pressure because of the cutting in natural areas and also in protected areas. So we very much support this working group, and we also have strategies to development of communication towards decision makers who cover the regulations. Thank you. Thank you to the representative of Africa. I would now like to give the floor to Ms. Rosemary Nyam, the representative for North America region.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to everyone for this important work. I will get right to the point. The North American region does have some suggestions to revise draft decision 19AA, directed to the Secretariat to add a new paragraph, little a, as follows. In consultation with the Plants Committee, develop the objectives of the proposed study of rosewood tree species, taking into account findings and recommendations contained in documents PC 25, document 26.1, document 26.2, and document 26.3. And therefore, the paragraphs A to D of the draft decisions 19AA would be revised in sequential order to be B to E. So we're adding a new paragraph A that I read. And we also recommend the following revision to decision 19BB directed to the Plants Committee. Adding this phrase, the Plants Committee shall consider any progress reported by the Secretariat in relation to the implementation of Decision 19AA, and this is the new phrase, work with the Secretariat to develop the objectives of the study and make recommendations to the Standing Committee and the Conference of the Parties as appropriate. So essentially, both these changes mean that the Plants Committee will be more involved in these decisions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madame la représentante de la...
I thank the representative of the North America region. I now give the floor to China. China, you have the floor.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. I take this opportunity to appreciate the working group's efforts on the preparation of document 26.3. Regarding 8.c, non-CITES listed species that are under the name rosewood, the United States of America noted that some of the species mentioned don't belong to the family Leguminaceae. We also agree that the inclusion of the term rosewood tree species in CITES should be based on science. The indefinite range and unscientific connotation embodied in the term rosewood tree species will cause big confusions for CITES implementation. We advocate the use of scientific names of species in CITES community to guarantee efficient CITES implementation. Thanks for your consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Merci.
I thank China. We have 4 minutes left, so I really would like to ask for your indulgence so that I may close this item on the agenda before the end of today's meeting for day 2. So I think we could take a decision in plenary as follows. Based on the interventions from the Plants Committee, the committee takes note of the recommendations in document 26.2 within the framework of the draft decisions on African trees, and accepts the draft decisions in paragraph 36 of document 26.3 with the amendments contributed by the North America region. I do not see a reaction, so I think that we can consider this item closed. So to finish this meeting, we have 3 minutes left. We are going to meet again on the 23rd of January for the next meeting of the Plants Committee. Tomorrow we have a joint meeting with the Animals Committee. So the items left on our agenda to conclude are items 16, 36, 39 and 29 first, then 39. So I think these are items that we can cover relatively rapidly so that we can then hear the working group reports. I would like to thank the Plants Committee members for the work that has been achieved and for having supported me in my baptism of fire as chair of the Plants Committee, and in these very special circumstances since we are working remotely. I'd also like to thank the observer parties who have participated in our work. I'd like to thank observers as well, and I'd like to thank the interpreters for the work you have done, and the Secretariat for having supported us to ensure that the work could take place in good conditions. And I'd like to thank the God of the Internet who has allowed this to take place, and I was very much afraid that I wouldn't be able to take part fully in the meetings. So I'd like to thank everyone, and I will just give the floor to the Secretariat should there be any announcements to make. Thank you.
And congratulations. No, Madam Chair, there are no particular interventions to make at this point. I would just remind the Plants Committee that they reconvene tomorrow together with the Animals Committee, and that the Plants Committee by itself reconvenes towards the end of the month. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci. Il est donc.
Thank you. It is now 2:30, according to my clock, which is 3:30 Geneva time. Thank you to everyone. I wish you all a good end of the day, good end of your evening, beginning of your day, wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you very much.